I'm here today with my good friend, Patricia Raybon, faith writer by day, mystery writer by night. Patricia is an award-winning author, essayist, and novelist who writes top-rated books at the intersection of faith and race. Her first fiction, an historical detective series called All That Is Secret, is set in 1923 in Colorado's Klan era and releases today, October 5th, from Tyndale House. Patricia's already written several nonfiction books that we'll talk about here in a moment, but she's also been a featured speaker at several of our conferences and is a trusted advisor for our Publishing Color program. So Patricia, it's so wonderful, as always, to have you join us here today, and so many congratulations for your new book.
Thank you. I'm so excited. And I even did the smart thing. I brought with me copies of All That Is Secret. This is a hardcover, Brian.
Good.
And Tyndale also published it in trade paper.
Okay.
So here's the paper. It's also available in audio and on Kindle and the Nook. You know, Barnes and Noble has the Nook. And so to my surprise, it's making the rounds.
Oh, I'm sure.
And here we are.
I'm sure there are a lot of folks that are anxious to read it.
Yeah, that's it's just a big surprise for me. A few weeks ago, Parade Magazine, I don't know if you saw that, Parade Magazine selected it for its Fall 2021 Mysteries We Love.
Wow.
Feature.
I didn't see that. Yeah, please send me a link and we'll, get it posted. That's wonderful.
Yes. And then a couple of other things like that have happened. So it's such a surprise to me because the genre is very popular and there are a lot of mystery books out there. People love the mysteries and they love series. This is the first of a series. And, but I just didn't know if, it would find legs. And already it's walking around.
Well, I mean, it is the first novel you've ever written. So, I mean, that's understandable to have some, apprehension because, I mean, your nonfiction books have done tremendously well, but, each genre is kind of a different animal.
Right. And you just never know. So I'm delighted to be here with you on release day.
Yes. Fantastic. So before we get into new books, could you give folks just an overview of, the nonfiction, the other books that you've written?
Yes. All nonfiction. The first being a book with Viking Penguin about racial forgiveness called My First White Friend. And it's significant to me because it is my first book. This year, it's its 25th anniversary.
Is it really? Wow.
Yes. And, that's not that unusual anymore because now you can print books on demand.
Sure.
And for a while, books just didn't stay in print for a long time, but this has been in print for 25 years. And it was my attempt to make peace with white America. That's what I said. But it turns out once I started writing it, that I had all this unfinished business with my family, my own family, that I needed to plow through to get to, racial healing in general. I just needed to do some family healing first. And so it's been so interesting to me. Over the years, people have written to me saying, I love this book. When I read it, I reached out to my brother, who I haven't spoken to in 5 years. So people sort of followed the same, pattern.
Wow.
Doing that family healing first and then looking at racial healing too. So that's that one. And then after that book, Brian, I decided to focus on Christian readers, on audiences of faith. And so I changed agents and I wrote a book for Tyndale House on my struggle to learn how to pray called I Told the Mountain to Move. And this book was a Book of the Year finalist in Christianity Today's Book Awards contest back in 2006. And it did reflect the kind of, or share the kind of writing I like to do, which is reflective and ask hard questions, not because I know the answers, but because I want to figure them out. And writing helps me to do that. So that was the book on prayer, a memoir. I wrote a devotional also for Tyndale House on one of their one-year projects. They have a one-year brand of devotionals and Bibles. At Tyndale, they're very popular. It's a project because this is a year of devotionals, daily devotionals. So I did that. I loved it. It's on Bible virtues that God blesses. It's called the 1 year God's Great Blessings devotionals. And then I wrote a book with my daughter called Undivided. And our daughter left the faith. And we struggled for 10 good years to make peace around that. And so we decided to write a book together. And Thomas Nelson published this one called Undivided, A Muslim Daughter, Her Christian Mother, Their Path to Peace.
It's just an excellent book. That's my favorite, I think, of yours.
Thank you. Thank you. So when it came time to figure out what to write next, I had some ideas, and I'd worked on some book proposals. Like a lot of authors, you always sort of have some book proposals going. And then the pandemic hit. And Colorado was a pretty notable lockdown state during the first months of the pandemic. And so we were here in my house, my husband and I, essentially in isolation. And I said to Dan, what do you think if I try working on that mystery novel I started? Actually 10 years ago.
Wow.
So, I went back to that and sat down on my deck out in the backyard and read everything that I had already had about how to plot a novel. And because I've been a working writer my entire life, and I like it to know what I'm trying to accomplish. It's just easier for me. When I wrote a devotional, I wanted to know what's the format before I tried to write 365 of them. And so I read everything I could, reread everything I already had on how to plot a novel, how to structure a novel, what the story beats are. Have you heard that term? The beat in a story?
Yes.
Because story is in our bones, and readers are looking for those beats. And so I read, what the beats are in romance, because I have a romance. There's a love interest in this book. I read story beats for thrillers and mysteries. So because plotting has to do with knowing what's supposed to happen when in a story to keep your reader engaged and keep them reading. So once I kind of felt like I had my arms around what I was trying to do, and then I sat down and completed the novel.
Man, well, good for you. My goodness. How did you choose the topic and the era and everything?
Well, I grew up in Colorado, so I love that question. I knew about the Klan era during the early part of the 1920s. The Klan ruled Colorado. I don't know if I ever told you this. Colorado had the second highest Klan membership per capita of any state in the country.
Wow.
Every county in Colorado had a Klan clavern. And from the governor on down, leaders all over the state were dues-paying Klan members. And so I was aware of that era. And in a mystery novel, what's needed is a threat. And so, a viable threat. And so the Klan would provide that, a viable threat in a novel. I love historical fiction, and I love my state, and I just wanted to, and winners write history. And so I wanted to look at an underdog. What if this story was about an underdog who wasn't a winner, but had to was working on figuring out a crime. And so I came up with my character, who's a young Black theologian, a female theologian, who gets a cryptic telegram to come back to Colorado and find out why her father, her estranged father, was killed. And so she returns to Colorado, but since it's 1923 and the Klan is ruling the roost, she could be a victim herself too. So that's what drew me to that era. And I loved researching it, and I loved writing it.
So you're in the midst right now, obviously, of launching it, right? So how has a book launch differed for a novel versus your other books?
Oh, well, day and night, which surprised me because I was not primed for what it means to be a fiction author. That's a big stage, Brian. And fiction authors who do really well know how to fill that stage. They're very engaged with their readers, and they embody their fiction. And so there's this huge level of engagement and promise to your reader that you are continually churning out these novels, because we have this love fest, and I am creating for you, and always thinking about you, my beloved readers. And so as a nonfiction author, I was focused on getting the writing done. But it turns out there's this entire other life of being a fiction author. And I have, made some mistakes. I've wobbled. Initially, when the review copies first start going out, the reviews were glowing, and people were saying, "Oh, I love this. This is so different. I love this story." And so I was so excited. And then a few weeks ago, here came a couple of really mean reviews.
Wow.
And it just threw me for a loop. I didn't know how to react to it. And I finally understood that that's part of the territory. That comes with the territory of being a fiction author. And as my editor at Tyndale said, you have to decide, who are you going to listen to? The mean review, or those people who are saying, I love this writing and I want to see more of it. I want to hear more from this author. So I've had to turn off as I said to my husband, I have to turn off my reptilian brain,
Really?
which wants to, glom onto the negative. And instead, just reconnect with the affirming positive reviews and readers who are saying, yes, I love it, and I can't wait till book 2.
Good. That's good. I mean, wonderful. It's not get more results from the effort, not just one book. But how many? Do you know how many are going to be in the series? And do you have any idea?
Well, the contract was for 3 books.
Okay.
This summer, with God's help, I finished book 2.
Wow. Good for you.
Yes. Tyndale really enjoyed it, and so I'm doing revisions on that, and then we start line edits probably sometime after Thanksgiving. And so, as I said, I'm promised now for 3 of the books. And we'll see what happens after that.
No, that's just awesome. I'm so happy for you, and so glad to see that it's doing so well.
Thank you. I love the genre. It's what I read for my leisure, in my leisure time. I love mystery novels. And then this has a faith element. So it's right in the right place for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really enjoying it.
Well, with, nonfiction, there's typically a theme or a point, of the book, a purpose of the book, what have you. For this, what do you see as the main takeaway that you'd like people to come away with having read it?
My answer to that is a bigger heart. I've been surprised. I was talking to a friend on her podcast recently, and she said she realized after the George Floyd killing and the Black Lives Matter moment last year that she had never read a novel with a Black protagonist.
Wow.
And, she said she was surprised because she thinks of herself as broad-minded, open-minded, open-hearted. But when she looked at her fiction reading, she could not find a novel, even as in her childhood reading or her adult reading, where she had intentionally selected a novel with a Black protagonist. So I'm hoping that people will come away with a bigger heart for diverse stories told by authors of color. And there's a hashtag for that, Brian, called Own Voices. Have you seen that?
Right.
So it's an Own Voices story. And I think that's why people who are enjoying it are saying, I've just never read a mystery like this before. And maybe that they're saying, I've never read a story, a fiction project by an author of color about a person of color.
Well, you've got a diverse set of fans. Your audience spans ethnicity, right, and race. I mean,
Right.
So I bet there are a lot of probably white folks who maybe this will be the first one, that not just the person that you mentioned.
I didn't expect that, but that's what I'm experiencing and observing. So that's exciting for me. And
it's exciting, period. I mean, exciting for the world, right? I mean, because it opens a door for people hopefully to go look for other own voices, other writers of color, besides just but you've been a pioneer in other ways previously with the things that you've written. So I mean, here's another great example of that.
Well, and I found a group, Brian, called Crime Writers of Color.
Really?
Yes. And so it's formed by Walter Mosley. I'm sure you probably heard of him.
I've heard the name, yeah.
Yes, he's a great, well-known mystery writer, and several younger mystery writers of color. And so I joined that group. I also joined Sisters in Crime, and they have a Colorado contingent. I joined Mystery Writers of America, the Rocky Mountain contingent, and a Rocky Mountain fiction writer. So suddenly, after being in a lot of nonfiction and faith spaces, I'm in these other spaces with crime writers.
Well, maybe you can help educate me, because I don't have a clue about it. I mean, any of that. I mean, most of my work is nonfiction. I don't like to read fiction. I haven't hardly at all. So.
Well, here's the argument. I don't think I have the book right with me on my desk, but there is a book on story. It's kind of the Bible, lowercase. for fiction by a man named Robert McKee. And I reread it last summer before I started writing, and he reminds us that, as the literary theorists say, that fiction provides equipment for living. It's not just about a fake story. There's going to be a takeaway there. And
well, I know you're absolutely right. And, every good novel, or every good piece of fiction has got some powerful things in it, right? I mean,
yes. So listen to this. Renovare, which is a spiritual formation ministry, which happens to be in Colorado, they staged a webinar a few months ago during the summertime called Formational Fiction, Stories that Shape Our Souls.
Interesting.
And so I was blessed to be on that panel with 4 other people. We each were asked to share our top 5 novels, favorites, that we felt were formational spiritually. And it was just the best conversation about how fiction can deliver another way to come at life, conflict and issues and problems. It gives people a place to practice conflict and practice their fears and their worries, and then take away something concrete from that. And once I understood that, that really for me justified the effort of writing a novel, because I couldn't, I enjoyed mystery reading, as I said, in my leisure time, but I really did need a reason to commit to doing this. And so I found it in that argument that stories are equipment for living. And so that really said, yes, you can do this, and you should do this. And so here we are.
Well, I guess I need to revisit my reading queue. I've got a whole stack of books here that are waiting to be read, and I'll bet there isn't any fiction in it. So I'll have to think about that again. So
yes. And
so,
then
just
one other quick thing about crime writing is that it looks at the places where culture is broken. And so some of the best writing in the country is crime writing. And so I'm just humbled to be in these spaces with these people who have been doing this work for a long time, and trying to sit in my niche, which is faith and mystery. And I found, just welcoming kindness from people. So, you think crime writing by definition sounds dark and scary, but they're some very thoughtful, reflective people doing this kind of work.
Wow. Not something I necessarily would have expected, but
I know.
So are you still doing your work with like Dayspring and Our Daily Bread and Encourage and those different outlets?
Yes, I'm still a regular contributor to Our Daily Bread. In fact, I submitted we are asked to submit 3 devotionals a month for Our Daily Bread daily devotional. I submitted mine just last night, and I'm still a regular contributor to Dayspring's Encourage community. So I used to think and I came up with this tagline that said, I'm writing faith by day and mystery by night.
Yeah.
But actually, I told somebody the other day, I got to this fork in the road, and I thought, how can I describe to people what I'm doing? But I found out it's the same road, because there's no faith without mystery. And be an amateur sleuth and try to solve a crime, try to solve a mystery, takes faith. So it's the same road.
Interesting. So I have to ask you though, I mean, despite all of the fiction writing coming up, do you think there's any nonfiction books that'll be on the docket soon?
I haven't thought of any, but thank you for asking the question. Just by asking it, you plant the seed. So we'll see.
Good. So, well, I know people can go to patriciaraybon.com and find out about it. And I'm sure you've got, a Facebook page and, the other social media outlets. Any other suggestions for people to go find the book?
Yes. Call your library. If they haven't ordered it, ask them to order it. Check your independent bookstores in your town and neighborhood. Yesterday I went to Barnes and Noble, and they have it sitting out on a table at the Barnes and Noble on Colorado Boulevard, their big store in Denver. But at the same time, I checked every library in Metro Denver has the book, and in some libraries there are waiting list.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
So yes, like all authors, we can be found on our websites. But I would encourage and ask people to go to your library website, go to that contact page, and there'll be a place that says, do you recommend a book? And ask them to order. All that is secret.
So are you finding that book tours, book signings, speaking engagements live, in person are picking up again yet? Or what are your views on that?
I think they are picking up again. I have a couple in-person events this month, one at a independent bookstore here in Colorado, and then there's a group called Colorado Press Women that I used to be when I was a newspaper reporter, and they invited me to come and talk about the novel. So, and those are both in person, so they'll probably be wear a mask events or something like that to get in the door.
Sure.
And then I also see that sometimes there'll be hybrid events where people can also Zoom in if they want to. But I remember the days when my first book came out, Brian, 25 years ago. My publishing house, Lightning Penguin, sent me on a cross-country book tour, and they flew me to all these book cities, including Seattle, places that have really big, busy book reading communities. And, I'd go to a city and they'd hire a driver to come take me to a TV show and talk about the book. And I think only the really big names are doing that now.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying just finding other ways to connect, and we'll connect via this recording on Zoom.
Absolutely.
With people.
Well, it's nice that we have these kinds of tools, to be able to do this across the country as we are, and let lots of people all around the world know about it. So,
Right.
So one of the things I haven't announced to anybody yet, but that I'm planning to have a Writing for Your Life conference in the Denver area in June of 2022 that you and I will be working on together. So that's definitely something to look forward to.
Absolutely. Have you settled on the location?
Yes.
For that?
Yes.
Can you share, where is it going to be in Denver?
St. Andrew's United Methodist Church in Highland Ranch.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yep.
Good.
I don't remember the exact dates, but it's early June.
Okay. Exciting.
So yeah, we'll be announcing that, we get a little closer.
Right.
Well, Patricia, thank you so much, for joining us, and thank you so much for bringing this new book, this new genre, this new series, to the world. And I really hope and pray that it does well.
Thank you so much. I always love talking to you. I'm grateful for our friendship, and I enjoyed our chat today. Thank you so much.
Well, same here on all counts, Patricia. Thank you so much.